Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 5:54 a.m. East Coast time, Wednesday, August 7th. So happy midweek to everybody out there in their work weeks. We're going to cover the showdown slate for the WNBA. Back-to-back showdown slates, very interesting. So we have New York versus Chicago today. So we're going to get into this slate. Before we do, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I cover daily fantasy sports in the NFL. There's an NFL video out right now. I'm excited for the preseason week 1. We're going to do another one for tomorrow morning to cover any of the news that was missed. There's also an NFL course link down below, or a sign up for the course link down below. It's totally free to sign up. All you do is give me your email. You say, Sal, never spam me. I won't. And then you just say, okay, Tim, send me an email when the course is done. It's probably going to be done tomorrow morning. So there's just a little news flash. You can sign up for that. Totally free. Down below, it's going to have a ton of things. How to make stat sheets like the one you're seeing in front of me right now. Things like that. And a bunch of other stuff. Every single thing you can think of, it's linked in my Twitter bio. Follow me on Twitter at Wnba Dfs. Everything that's going to be in the course is linked over there. So that being said, I also cover MLB videos. Those videos are up. There'll be articles on Patreon linked down below, as well as these projections for the WNBA. Cover WNBA. Those will be linked down below. NBA doesn't start till October, but I also cover that. So as I mentioned, projections for the WNBA linked down below on Patreon. You can head there. You can see all the other sports, MLB, NFL. You can see everything that is on the package, what you would get. It's exclusive content. So if you're interested, you can head over there. There's a video explaining what Patreon is and why I created one. It's linked in that link. It takes 1 or 2 minutes to view the video. So welcome if you're new. Those are all the things that I have going on. There's also some free strategy guides down below. You can take advantage of those. The NBA one is going to be very, very pertinent to the WNBA as well. They kind of cross over for the most part exactly. But I'm excited. So let's get into the video. Hit me with a like button. Hit me with a subscribe button. If you've been watching these videos, about the 5 to 1,000 of you a day for the WNBA who do watch these videos, appreciate you all so much. If you've been watching them for a couple weeks or a couple days now, and if you have not hit that subscribe button, I just want to urge you, please hit it. Helps me out as a creator so much. So let's get into the slate. So you have New York versus Chicago. So a couple of things just in terms of injury news. There's not much. There's really nothing to cover injury news related on this front. There are reasons to kind of cover some things, such as kind of where the minutes have been going. The minutes have been all over the place for New York, and a big reason why is because there's been blowouts. So we really don't know what this team looks like the way that they are. Bria Hartley has now been back for a handful of games, 7 games or so. Asia Durr has now been back for 3 games or so. And they have not been in a situation where they played in a competitive game to see what the minutes would actually look like. Asia Durr went out there, played 21 minutes in the last game, and Hartley played 13. And the reason why was they were down by 20, so I imagine that had a big piece to do with it. But did she see some of those minutes stably, like they were going to be there anyways, and that was going to reduce Hartley? Well, we don't know that, and we're not going to know that because it was a blowout, and we don't know what the coach was going to do otherwise. So unfortunately, the minutes are going to feel unstable, but I think there's a way to kind of get that all together and to feel comfortable about this going into the showdown slate. But that's the main thing on that front. Other than that, you can kind of talk through the backup minutes, the Marine Johannes's of the world, and trying to figure out where those minutes are going to go. For the most part, they're going to be floating in the low to mid-teens, and we'll cover through all of those. So I'm just going to talk through. These are my projections. Again, if you want them, this is what you would get every single day on Patreon for the month-to-monthly package. And honestly, it's dirt cheap. It's $15. So whatever that comes out to a day, 50 cents a day or whatever it is to get these projections, might be less. So yeah, I'm excited. Let's get into this. And so in terms of defense, the matchup today for the Chicago guards, who are 2 pretty good guards in the league, right? Courtney Vanderbilt, Diamond Shields, 2 of the better guards in the league, is the best in the league against New York. So you have 2 good guards against the worst team at defending the guard position for fantasy purposes in the league. Usually things bode well. So I do have interest in both Vanderbilt and Diamond Shields. Actually, I have more interest in Diamond Shields for a couple of reasons. Well, one, she's cheaper, and price for this slate really isn't going to come into play too much, especially if you're going to get to Courtney Vanderbilt as well. But she's cheaper, one. I think she's a better point per minute producer, in my opinion, at least in this type of matchup. And she's going to play on average more minutes. She's somebody who will play 31, 32 minutes way more often than Courtney Vanderbilt even plays 30. So more minutes is more opportunity, especially in a matchup like this. I imagine this is going to be a fast-paced, high-total game. These are 2 of the faster-paced teams in the entire league. So you should see a lot of points. That usually benefits the guard's position. So yes, there is interest in both Courtney Vanderbilt and Diamond Shields. More so in Diamond Shields, you save a little money, and I think you get a better overall producer, just due to the fact that she'll see probably 1 or 2 more minutes. But that does not kind of take away from my interest to Courtney Vanderbilt. Both of them in great spots. Both of them should be heavily considered. We'll go down through some of these top options and then just kind of pick around. Tina Charles, the third most expensive player at 8,800. This would be a 10,000 plus player if the minutes were stable. She's been seeing just wacky minutes. Big pieces of that have to do with the game's not staying competitive. Big pieces of that have to do with her getting into foul trouble. I mean, you're lucky in the last game she saw 30 minutes plus, but you're lucky if you see a 30-minute plus game out of her, a player who was averaging like 34 to 35 when we had the Rebecca Allen was out stuff, when we had the Wnba Dfs was playing overseas, and the Hartley was out, and the Johannes. There's about a good two to 3 week span where she was seeing 35 minutes a game. That was when we were taking advantage of Rotunda Gray at that time and a lot of the value that she was offering. So Tina Charles at 8,800 has to be an interesting play. I have her at 28 minutes. The problem is this game could become a blowout very, very quickly. I don't foresee it to be that way, but in the past, Chicago has kind of had their way with New York this season. But I have her for 28 minutes. At that point, she grades out as the third highest scoring player behind the two guards for Chicago. But I would say that if Tina Charles is out there for a full 30-31 minutes, that she's going to be the highest scoring player on the slate. And let's put her out there for 32 minutes and see what happens if this game stays close. She becomes the highest scoring player on the slate at 34.2 fantasy points, barely over Diamond Shields. And that's if she only plays 32 minutes. We've seen her in the past get up to the 34-35 range. 34, well, yeah, now you're starting to push the 40-point range. So I think Tina Charles has the highest ceiling on the slate. It all depends on how close this game stays and how much they actually run the offense through her. The matchup against Chicago is not a bad one. Chicago is bottom 5 in the league in terms of defending that position, the forward position. So yeah, Charles is going to be an interest of mine. Those top 3 players are also all interest of mine. Stephanie Dolson, I'm probably not going to get there at the price point. I don't think she should be priced as the 4th highest expensive player in the slate. She's a player who can go out there and get 23 minutes or 27. Most of the time she'll hover around the 25-minute range. A neutral matchup against these New York forwards, and honestly, probably not something I'm trying to target much as the Chicago forwards. Although the matchup is neutral, it's the worst on the slate. And again, it's a one-game slate, but it's the worst for any position on the slate. You don't want to go up against Tina Charles and Wnba Dfs all that often, so I'm not going to get there. Allie Quigley, again, the guards are in a great spot here. Allie Quigley's minutes have been all over the place. I were at 24 today. Big pieces of that is because what's going on in the secondary minutes. Lots of minutes have been getting kind of shoved around with the Kayla Copper. And Nador is coming back and getting rotational minutes as a forward, so it's been hurting Allie Quigley's minutes the most. I'm probably not going to get there at 7,800. I just have more interests that are a lot cheaper. Wnba Dfs, we talked about it. If she sees minutes, she's going to be a really good producer. She saw 23 minutes only in the last game and dropped like 29 fantasy points. If she just sees her 30-minute game, she's going to be a 30-plus point producer. That's how good she is on a point-per-minute basis. She is the best point-per-minute player on this slate right now. I have her at 1.09 fantasy points per minute. She is now priced as the 6th most expensive player. She grades out as one of the best values on the slate for me, if not the best value. So yes, at 7,600, I want a lot of Wnba Dfs. If the game stays close, she's a player who can go out there and finally get her first over 25-minute game since returning from overseas. If that was the case, if I gave her, 20, let's say she got 27 minutes today and they finally unleashed her a little bit, she'd grade out for 31 fantasy points. She'd grade out as the 3rd highest scoring player if I gave her 27 today, or 3rd highest scoring player right behind Courtney Vandersloot barely, and she's only 7,600. So I have a lot of interest in Wnba Dfs. She's one of the better, if not the best values on the slate. Kia Nurse at 7,200, just too cheap. Look, her minutes have been fluctuating, but a lot of that is due to these blowouts. I have her for 29 minutes today. I have her for scoring 25 fantasy points, which on this slate would come in at 1, 2, 3, the 5th highest, and she's priced as the 7th. So there's some value there. 0.81 fantasy point per minute producer, a little bit above average, right around average for the WNBA. 29 minutes, she could easily go out there and play 31, which is her average. Her average is 31.5 on the season. That would be a little bit more of a bump to 26.7. So I do like Kia Nurse today. I like these guards for New York. It's just tough trying to figure out where the minutes go. Kia Nurses are definitely the most stable. Not going to get to much Lavender today. Again, don't want to really target these forwards against New York. Bria Hartley is interesting. So Bria Hartley, it's all going to depend really, for the most part, on Asia Durr. I'm going to highlight as well as Asia Durr. So it's all going to depend on Asia Durr's minutes. We don't know what they are. Was that last game more blowout run than what we would expect in a normal game that stayed close? Was it not 21 minutes after playing 8 minutes for Asia Durr before that? Bria Hartley seeing like in the mid to high 20s, and then she automatically in the past game gets cut down because of the blowout. How much of that is real? How much of that is Asia Durr getting more run coming back from injury? I don't know. They have a ton of guards in this team now. Maureen Johannes is still there, who's seeing in the mid-teens in minutes. So it's really tough and difficult. And also the reason that Allie Quigley's minutes are kind of getting cut a little bit more is that Faulkner and Samuelson are also taking minutes. Faulkner's been around 10, Samuelson's been anywhere between 5 and 10, and it's really affecting Allie Quigley's minutes the most. But getting back to Bria Hartley, yeah, Bria Hartley plays the 26 minutes I have her down for. She is slightly better she's slightly better of a value than Wnba Dfs. Maybe not overall points wise, but just points per dollar wise. How much bang for your buck? That's 6,800. But I don't feel confident in saying that I think she's going to go out there and get 26 minutes. It could be very well that Asia Durr goes out there and gets 24 minutes, and now you're looking at a 22-minute game for Rhea Hartley. And again, if this game blows out, all these minute projections kind of go out the window, so don't come back to me and say, wow, Sal, you really suck in minute projections. No, if the game blows out, obviously they're taking players off the court, and I can't predict if the game's going to blow out or not. Even Vegas can't predict it as much as they'd like to try. So yeah, Rhea Hartley is going to be an interest of mine, because if she does get any sort of average minutes, I would say around the 24 to 26 range, she's going to grade out as a very good play at 6,800. I think that's where she lands. She's a much better ball handler as well as scorer than an Asia Durr. But Asia Durr, they've been using a lot more as a forward kind of in her role, even though she's labeled as a point guard, shooting guard. So we'll see what the starting lineup looks like. If Rhea Hartley's in the starting lineup, I feel good about the 24 to 26 minute range. Keep an eye on that. So that's where I'm at right now. Courtney Vandersloot, Diamond the Shields, Tina Charles, all those top options I have interest in. Out of those three, Tina Charles has the highest ceiling for a tournament, I would say. Diamond the Shields is a very solid play in both cash and tournament formats, though. Wnba Dfs becomes a very interesting captain option, because she has a lot of upside. 7,600 is a cheap price point where you can fit in more studs, and I think she has a lot of upside. She also has a lot of downside, though. She can go out there and play 20 minutes if this game blows out, but a lot of other people will kind of be all over the place 2 minutes wise. If this game stays close, I expect 25 plus minutes, and if that's the case, yes, she does have real 30 plus point upside. Kia Nurse, the most stable of all the guards minutes for New York. I think that she's too cheap on this slate. I really don't know how she's cheaper than an Allie Quigley, and honestly, it's Stephanie Dolson today. Rhea Hartley, we talked about kind of the confusion in minutes, but if she does start, I feel good about that. Check back in for the projections later. Might update them. Yesterday, people were reaching out to me, update them for Augustus or whatever her name was. And I tried to do it mobily, and it just did not work. I was in the store, half hour from my house. Not good timing. But Asia Durr is the only other person that I'll probably mention right now. 3,200. Again, she played 21 minutes in the last game. Terrible point per minute producer. Like, when you compare her and Rhea Hartley, you don't know why she would be seeing more minutes. And again, she's playing more forward position, so that's probably why. Hartley, 0.93 fantasy point per minute producer, whereas Durr is a 0.63 fantasy point per minute producer. Not great. But if you're talking about a player that is below $4,000 and honestly the $3,000 range, if I gave her 20 minutes, she'd score 13.5 fantasy points in my projection. She'd be the best value on the slate. Now, I don't care about value as much down here, because you're also just telling me that Jameer Faulkner, who's going to play 10 minutes in my book, at 0.71 fantasy points per minute, so she's going to get 8 fantasy points, is a 0.40 value. No, I don't think that that's that much value when you're not scoring any actual points. But if Asia Durr goes out there and plays these 20 minutes, 14 fantasy points from her might be enough to get you sort of everything else you need. I'm not going to go there because I think it's too low. I don't like playing players that are projecting out for below 10 or more fantasy points. I automatically kind of X them out. But realistically, 15 or less is really tough to get to unless you're in this $3,000 range. So Asia Durr is worth a mention. Again, she's a very bad fantasy point per minute producer, and her minutes are not stable. If Asia Durr goes out there today and only plays 15 minutes instead of 20, and the game stays close, but now she's at 10 fantasy points, and that's somewhere that I don't play at all. So I'm probably not going to play Asia Durr, but I wanted to just mention sort of a deep end option. Between that range and the $6,600 range, not going to get to much. Not much that really stands out. Lots of minutes that are going to be split up, and a lot of players that are just going to see, honestly, like 15 minutes in that 15 range between Rebecca Allen and Shanae Parker. Parker might kind of stand out from the pack and kind of get you a 17 or 18 minute game. She's really good on a point per minute basis, but I only have her for 15 minutes. She hasn't been playing a lot of minutes as of late, so that's where I stand. Vandersloot, Diamond the Shields, Tina Charles, Dfs, Kia Nurse, and Hartley are 6 players that I have more interest in than others. But then you can kind of throw into the mix Shanae Parker and Asia Durr on the low end, a Marine Johannes for a cheap end option that can potentially have upside at a point per minute. So that's where I'm at. Hopefully this video helps. Follow me on Twitter at SalVetcherDFS. And my Twitter bio, pinned up in the first tweet, is the NFL DFS course, what's in it. You can also sign up in the link down below. It's totally free to actually sign up for the email list, and then I'll send you an email tomorrow morning once it's done, or tomorrow afternoon once it's done. Send you over the email for the NFL course. Tons in it. You can review it, see if that you actually want to purchase it. Also, hit the subscribe button. Helps me out a ton. Again, follow me on Twitter at SalVetcherDFS. Patreon, link down below to get these projections every single day. I only show them on showdown slates, so don't expect them to come out the next day that there's a 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 game slate. But for right now, my name's Sal. You already know that. Peace out, gang.